The one touch every mature woman craves but men ignore. You think you know what she wants, you think it is physical, you are wrong. For decades, men have been taught a very simple, very flawed equation about women and intimacy. We are conditioned to believe that deep connection is built through the skin, through the hands, through grand gestures, and constant physical validation. We are told to hold her, to pull her close, to never let go. And while physical affection certainly has its place in a healthy bond, it is not the ultimate anchor. It is just the weather. A mature woman is fundamentally different. She has lived, she has survived. She does not crave the frantic nervous energy of a youthful romance. She no longer needs a man to constantly hold her hand just to prove he is not going to walk away. She has built her own foundation. She knows her own worth. She is no longer looking for a boy to entertain her. She is looking for a man who can stand still. But there is one thing she still craves. One specific thing. She craves a touch that most men do not even know exists. It is an invisible touch. A touch that bypasses the physical body entirely and reaches directly into the deep, complex architecture of her mind. It is a profound psychological grasp. It is the feeling of being completely and entirely understood without having to say a single word. Most men completely miss this reality. They sense a growing distance. They try to fix it. They buy expensive gifts. They plan surprise trips. They try to initiate more physical contact to desperately bridge the emotional gap they feel widening between them. But it feels empty. It feels hollow. You reach out. She pulls away. When this invisible touch is missing, the relationship does not end in a massive fiery explosion of anger. It ends in silence. It slowly freezes to death in a quiet, perfectly decorated living room. You sleep in the exact same bed. You breathe the exact same air. But you are light years apart. You have become strangers who simply share a mailing address. This silent death happens because she is starving for a type of connection you have not yet learned how to provide. Today, we are going to change that. We are going to dissect the one psychological touch every mature woman desperately needs to feel safe, to feel seen, and to finally surrender. Once you understand this framework, you do not just change the dynamic of your relationship, you change yourself. It is midnight. The house is completely dark. The world outside has stopped moving. You are lying next to her in bed. The mattress shifts softly. Your shoulders are just inches apart. You can feel the faint warmth radiating from her skin. You are physically as close as two human beings can possibly be. But you are not there, and she knows it. The space between you feels like a vast, freezing ocean. She is wide awake. She is staring at the faint shadows dancing across the ceiling, listening to the slow, steady rhythm of your breathing. She is not angry. She is not planning a fight. She is exhausted. It is not a physical tiredness. It is a deep, heavy, soul-crushing exhaustion that only comes from spending years trying to explain the complex landscape of her mind to someone who refuses to look at the map. You are a good man. You work hard, you provide, you keep the lights on. You think that is enough. For a young, insecure girl looking for a savior, maybe it is. But for a mature woman, it is just the baseline. It is the bare minimum of adult existence. She does not need a savior. She needs a mirror. She needs a deeply rooted oak tree. Think about the conversations you have, the real ones, or rather the ones that fail to be real. She comes to you after a long, draining day. She shares a frustration. She exposes a vulnerability. What do? You instantly become the mechanic. You analyze the situation. You offer a perfectly logical step-by-step solution to fix her problem. You want to close the ticket and move on. You drop the hammer. You step back. You feel proud. You completely missed the mark. You missed her entirely. She did not come to you because she is incapable of solving her own problems. She has been managing her life, her career, and her storms long before you arrived. She has her own sword. She knows how to fight. She brought her vulnerability to you because she wanted to be felt. She wanted you to step inside her emotional reality just for a moment and stand there with her in the dark. Instead, you stood on the outside and threw an instruction manual through the window. This is proximity without presence. Existing in the exact same physical coordinates means absolutely nothing if your minds are orbiting entirely different planets. When a man is physically present but psychologically distracted, detached, or relentlessly logical, a mature woman feels a profound, aching isolation. She feels desperately lonely while holding your hand. She feels entirely abandoned while sleeping on your chest. This silent distance is a slow poison. It does not destroy the relationship in a sudden, violent explosion. It is a quiet, tragic erosion. It happens in 1,000 tiny, unrecorded moments. Moments where she softly extended her emotional energy toward you, looking for an anchor, and met a cold, flat wall of indifference. Over time, the math becomes clear to her. The effort brings a return, so she stops reaching, she stops talking, she stops trying to pull you into her depths. She quietly retreats into her own fortress, pulling up the drawbridge, locking the heavy iron gates firmly behind her. You look at her. You see the same woman. You see the same face, but she is gone. The ghost has left the machine. And the greatest tragedy of all is that most men do not even notice the house is empty until the winter has already set in. What is this invisible touch? It is not skin, it is not bone, it is mind. Psychologists often refer to this deep, unspoken connection as cognitive and emotional grasp. It is the profound ability to hold the weight of another human being's internal world without collapsing under the pressure. It is not about doing something, it is about being something. For a mature woman, this is the ultimate aphrodisiac. It is the only currency that actually matters in the long run. Let us look at the evolution of desire. A young woman still figuring out her place in the chaos of the world often seeks loud validation. She wants the grand romantic gestures. She wants the fireworks. She wants the obsessive texts, the dramatic declarations of love, the constant physical reassurance that she is desired. She thrives on the anxious, unpredictable spikes of dopamine that come with early romance. A mature woman has outgrown the circus. She has seen the fireworks burn out. She has watched the dramatic men crumble when the real storms arrive. She does not want a roller coaster. She wants a solid piece of earth. She wants a man who has mastered himself. This is where the ancient philosophy of Stoicism becomes the ultimate blueprint for modern masculinity. Marcus Aurelius once wrote about being like a cliff against which the waves continually break. It stands firm and tames the fury of the water around it. This is exactly what she needs from you. You are the cliff. You are the mountain. When her world becomes chaotic, when her emotions rise like a dark, heavy tide, she does not need you to jump into the freezing water and drown with her. And she certainly does not need you to stand on the shore and yell instructions on how to swim. She needs you to stand completely still, unshaken, unbothered, deeply rooted. Instead of being a leaf blown around by her emotional wind, you have become the deeply rooted tree that remains unshaken. You hold your ground. You maintain your frame. You do not let her anxiety become your anxiety. You do not let her stress infect your nervous system. When you achieve this state of grounded presence, you are executing the cognitive grasp. You are touching her mind. She feels it instantly. It is a visceral, full-body exhale. Let us go deeper into the anatomy of this invisible touch. Let us look at the nervous system. A mature woman's nervous system is finely tuned. It has been shaped by years of carrying heavy loads, managing careers, nurturing families, and surviving heartbreaks. She operates in a state of hypervigilance, constantly scanning the horizon for the next problem she has to solve. She is the manager of her universe. When she interacts with a man who is erratic, reactive, or emotionally unavailable, her nervous system registers danger. It tightens. It braces for impact. But when she interacts with a man who possesses this cognitive grasp, a man who is calm, deliberate, and emotionally grounded, her nervous system recognizes a rare and precious signal: safety. Safety is the prerequisite for surrender. You cannot force a woman to surrender to you. You cannot logic her into trusting you. You cannot buy her submission with expensive dinners. Surrender is a biological response to profound psychological safety. When you touch her mind with your unshakable presence, her nervous system finally powers down. The hypervigilance fades. The heavy armor drops to the floor. When she brings her chaos to you, and you meet it with absolute, unbreakable calmness, you are communicating something profound. You are telling her without a single word that she is free. You are telling her that her darkest, heaviest emotions are not too much for you to handle. You are telling her that you are not going anywhere. You hold the space, you breathe, you listen. This is the psychological embrace she has been starving for. It is the feeling of being completely enveloped by a masculine energy that is strong enough to contain her, yet gentle enough not to crush her. Most men panic when a woman is emotional. They fidget, they get defensive, they try to logic their way out of a feeling. This immediately signals to her that you are weak. It tells her that you cannot even handle your own internal state, let alone hers. If you shatter at the first sign of her emotional turbulence, how can she possibly trust you to lead, to protect, or to build a life with her? She cannot, so she closes off. But when you master the grasp, the entire dynamic of the relationship transforms. You become the sanctuary. You do not need to agree with everything she says. You do not need to surrender your own boundaries. In fact, a mature woman deeply respects a man who can say no, a man who has a spine of steel. But that spine must be wrapped in profound empathy. You see her. You truly see her. You look past the frustration. You look past the sharp words she might use when she's exhausted. You look straight into the core of her fear, her exhaustion, or her insecurity, and you hold it. You do not fix it. You hold it. This invisible touch disarms her entirely. It bypasses her defenses. It reaches the core. To master this invisible connection, we must break it down. We must dissect the anatomy of intimacy. This psychological grasp is not a single isolated action that you perform at once and quickly forget about. It is an ongoing practice. It is a way of existing in the world alongside her. To truly become the anchor she desperately needs, you must understand the 3 distinct layers of this invisible touch. Layer 1 is the touch of undivided presence. You shut your mouth, you open your ears, you put the phone down. Most men are entirely distracted. They live in a constant state of fractured attention, dividing their mental energy between the glowing screen in their hand, the lingering stress of their workday, and the faint chaotic background noise of the television. When she speaks to a distracted man, she feels like a ghost haunting her own living room. She feels utterly invisible. Undivided presence is an act of deep reverence. When she comes to you heavy with the exhausting burdens of her day or the quiet anxieties that keep her awake at night, she is not asking for a mechanic to dismantle her problems. She does not need your logic. She needs your witness. She needs you to look at her and truly see the weight she is carrying. Look at her eyes. Do not look away. Breathe in slowly. By offering her your absolute undivided focus, you are physically manifesting your psychological support, proving that in this exact moment, nothing else in the universe matters more than the words leaving her lips. You're creating a vacuum of safety. You're absorbing the chaotic frequency of her stress and grounding it into the earth through your steady, unwavering attention. You do not fix it. You just hold it. Layer 2 is the touch of unspoken understanding. You read the room. You feel the shift. You notice the silence. A mature woman rarely announces her emotional exhaustion with a loud, dramatic declaration, but rather she signals her internal state through the subtle, unspoken changes in her energy and her physical environment. It is the way she closes the cabinet doors a little too sharply. It is the sudden, heavy quiet that falls over the kitchen while she makes dinner. It is the rigid, exhausted way she holds her shoulders when she finally sits down at the end of the evening. A boy ignores these signs. A man studies them. He has learned the complex vocabulary of her body language, and he responds to her silent cries for help before she ever has to swallow her pride and ask for it. This is the profound difference between reacting to a crisis and preventing one entirely. You step in quietly, you take the load, you ask nothing. When you notice her energy shifting toward overwhelming stress, you do not bombard her with aggressive questions or demand to know what is wrong. Instead, you gracefully maneuver into her orbit and gently remove a burden from her plate, whether that means pouring her a glass of wine, taking over a mundane household chore, or simply placing a firm, warm hand on her lower back to remind her that she is not fighting this battle alone. She feels seen. She feels incredibly safe. The armor drops. Layer 3 is the touch of grounded consistency. You are the rock. You do not move. You hold the line. It is easy to be a supportive partner when the sun is shining, the bills are paid, and the relationship feels like a perpetual, beautiful honeymoon. But the true measure of your masculine core is revealed in the dark, chaotic moments when she loses her own emotional footing and the storm begins to rage around you. She will test you. She will push back. She will panic. A mature woman, despite her immense strength and independence, still carries the scars of her past, and there will be moments when her insecurities flare up and she desperately looks to see if you will abandon ship like all the others before you. She might project her anxiety onto you. She might become sharp, distant, or deeply irrational as the emotional waves crash over her head. You do not take the bait. You do not fight back. You stand completely still. Consistency is the ultimate proof of a deeply rooted psychological frame because it vividly demonstrates that your emotional stability is not contingent upon the ever-changing weather of her moods or the unpredictable circumstances of the outside world. You remain the calm, steady lighthouse on the edge of the jagged cliffs, guiding her back to safety with the relentless, unbroken beam of your presence. You weather the storm. You let it pass. You remain unshaken. When she finally exhausts herself, and the emotional tempest begins to settle, she will look up and see that you have not moved a single inch, and in that profound, quiet realization, her respect for you will multiply 1,000 times over. She will know with absolute certainty that you are the unbreakable foundation she has spent her entire life searching for. This is the final layer. This is the absolute peak. She surrenders entirely. Theory is a comfortable illusion. Execution is the brutal reality. You can memorize every psychological concept in the world, but until you stand in the middle of a burning room and refuse to let the fire touch your mind, you have learned absolutely nothing. To give a mature woman the invisible touch she craves, you must completely rewire your masculine default settings. You must become a disciplined practitioner of stoic stillness. It starts with the rope. Imagine an invisible rope stretching between the two of you during a moment of high emotional tension. She is stressed. She is overwhelmed. She pulls on her end of the rope with sharp words, sudden frustrations, or a cold, distant attitude. Your ego instantly screams at you to grab the other end and pull back. You defend yourself, you state facts, you raise your voice. The moment you grab that rope, you have already lost the battle. You have descended into her emotional chaos, entirely abandoning your position as the grounded anchor she desperately needs to find her way back to shore. You are no longer the mountain. You are just another fragile rock tumbling violently down the cliffside alongside her. You must do the opposite. You drop the rope. You step back. You do not engage in the frantic tug-of-war of right and wrong, because a mature woman in a state of emotional distress is not looking for a debate partner to logically dismantle her feelings. She is testing the structural integrity of the man standing in front of her. She needs to know if her darkness can break you. Let the rope fall. Look at her. Breathe. This brings us to the profound concept of holding your frame. Your frame is your internal emotional baseline, the unshakable psychological reality you inhabit, regardless of the external weather. When she brings a hurricane into the living room, your frame must remain a quiet, sunlit sanctuary that refuses to be compromised. You do not absorb her panic. You do not mirror her anger. You stay entirely within yourself. To execute this physically, you must master your own nervous system before you can ever hope to soothe hers. When the emotional tension spikes, your heart rate will naturally elevate and your chest will tighten with the primal ancient urge to either fight or flee. Notice the tension, slow your breathing, relax your shoulders. Instead of pacing the room or crossing your arms in a defensive posture, you plant your feet firmly on the ground and open your chest to the world. You look directly into her eyes with a gaze that is not piercing or aggressive, but deeply warm, incredibly patient, and completely unafraid of the storm she is currently projecting. You say very little. You let silence do the heavy lifting. You might simply say, "I am right here," or "I understand why you feel that way," delivering the words with a slow, resonant calmness that immediately begins to lower the temperature in the room. You're not patronizing her. You're not treating her like a fragile child who needs to be saved. You're offering her a massive, unmovable pillar of psychological safety to lean against until her own legs are strong enough to support her again. She feels the shift. The chaos dissolves. The connection deepens. This is the exact blueprint of the invisible touch. It requires the absolute death of your fragile ego and the profound resurrection of your quiet masculine discipline. When you stop trying to wrestle her emotions into submission and simply hold the space with unshakable resolve, you give her the one thing she cannot give herself. You give her peace, you give her rest, you become home. The war ends, the dust settles, you breathe. When a man finally masters the profound art of the invisible touch, the entire architecture of the relationship fundamentally transforms into something entirely unshakable. The frantic, exhausting need to constantly explain herself completely evaporates, replaced by a deep, quiet resonance that hums steadily in the background of your shared life. She stops running, she stops fighting. You will notice a profound shift in the way she looks at you across a crowded room, a silent acknowledgement that you are the only one who truly holds the map to her mind. She no longer tests the fences to see if they will break under the pressure of her emotional storms, because she already knows the foundation is poured in solid concrete. You are the harbour. She is home. The physical touch inevitably follows, but it is no longer a desperate grasp for validation or a frantic attempt to bridge a widening emotional gap. Because you have successfully secured the complex fortress of her mind, She will gladly and freely surrender the vulnerability of her heart and the absolute softness of her body. It is effortless. It is deeper. It is real. This is the ultimate prize of Stoic masculinity in a modern romance. It is a bond forged not in the loud, chaotic fires of youthful obsession, but in the quiet, enduring strength of a mature, deliberate presence that refuses to be moved by the wind. Think about your own journey. Have you ever experienced a profound moment where someone held the heavy weight of your mind without requiring you to say a single word? Drop into the comments. Share your story. Tell us about the exact moment you realized that true intimacy is not found in the hands, but in the unshakable stillness of a deeply rooted presence. We are listening. We are here. Stay deeply grounded.